We are 3 games into the 2025 college football season, and apparently we don't know nothing about nothing. We talk more about the quarterback position than any other position on the field because it is the most important position on the field, and all the preseason hype, the buzz, the conversation centered around 3 quarterbacks in the SEC who some people thought might be the 3 best in the country. Take your pick. And what we've discovered through 3 games is that neither Arch Manning nor Garrett Nussmeier nor DJ Lagway is the best quarterback in the SEC, let alone the best quarterback in the country. We're going to discuss that today. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Kevin Scarbinsky. This is Scarbo Knows on a Monday, September 15th, 2025. First thing we want to do is say good morning and welcome to our executive producer, Brenden Martin on Sidelines.Live. And we want to thank him and our sponsor, Money Management Services, located right here in Birmingham, Alabama, but available to you wherever you can connect to a telephone or the internet. My good friends, the Rice family, they are a family-owned, and get this, fee-only financial services company that sets them apart, as does their personal customer service. Reach out to them, hit the hashtag, the QR code. I always say hashtag, the QR code. Reach out to them. They're good friends of mine. They will take great care of you. And we'll hear more from them a little bit later in the show. All right, let's get into it. We have learned some things that were not accurate that we thought we knew when the season began. All summer long, all during the off season, we do focus on the quarterback position with good reason. You're not going to win a national championship these days unless you have a quarterback that can make plays. He doesn't have to be a Cam Newton. He doesn't have to be an all-time great player. He doesn't have to have the accuracy of a Danny Werfel, the toughness of a Cam Newton. He's got to have just different qualities, though, that set him apart, that make him the leader of your team if you're going to have a championship team. And we've seen some new stars emerge in the SEC, but we've also been disabused of some notions that we carried into the season, particularly with those 3 young men pictured on our title card today. Arch Manning from Texas, Garrett Nussmeier from LSU, and DJ Lagway from the University of Florida. Let's look at how this season already has turned upside down. And let's say welcome to the upside down. And again, we're early, but we're not that early. We're a quarter of the way through the season. Hate to break it to you. We all know how fast college football goes by. That's why we embrace it. That's why we anticipate it and embrace it so much when it's here. Look at where these 3 gentlemen rank in the SEC in several categories. Arch Manning, the golden boy, the legacy, the grandson of Archie, the nephew of Peyton and Eli. Well, as Terry Bowden once said, I'm a Bowden, but I'm not Bobby Bowden. Arch is a Manning, but he's not Eli, Peyton, or Archie Manning. Not yet. But at the moment, he is last in the SEC in completion percentage, barely above 50%. And at one point Saturday against UTEP, of all people, he threw, this is hard to believe, 10 consecutive incompletions. And if you saw some of the highlights or lowlights, just made some really bad decisions. So he's the worst quarterback in the SEC that qualifies for the stats. And shout out to our friends at cfbstats.com. That's where all these numbers come from. Give them full credit. Arch is the least accurate passer in the SEC at the moment. Who's last in the SEC in overall quarterback rating? That would be Garrett Nussmeier at LSU, who came back. He said on many occasions, when he could have turned pro after last year, he returned because he wanted to win a national championship. Now, he's in good position, and as is LSU at this point. They have, well, I was going to say a quality win at Clemson. The quality of that tarnishes by the day with what's happening with Dabo Swinney and company after they got beat, to no one's surprise, really, at Georgia Tech. And really, the game should not have come down to a last-second long-distance Georgia Tech field goal. Georgia Tech was the better team on the field. So Clemson's got work to do. But that is still a quality non-conference win for LSU. And then they opened SEC play with a defensive win against Florida on Saturday, in large part because the Florida quarterback, DJ Lagway, threw 5 interceptions. It's a hard thing to do. 5 interceptions, one of them a pick 6. Each team scored 1 offensive touchdown, and then you had some field goals. The pick 6 really was the key in the game. Not sure why Billy Napier allowed DJ Lagway to throw 49 passes when he was clearly uncomfortable in the pocket. Credit to the LSU defense. Who would have believed at this point in the season that we could clearly say this, that LSU is much better on defense than it is on offense? No one had that on their bingo card for the 2025 college football season. But DJ Lagway is not the same quarterback he was a year ago as he led that late season surge for the Gators. He looks like a guy who missed most, if not all, of spring practice, missed a ton of fall camp because of various injuries. He doesn't look comfortable. He looks hesitant. There's a disconnect, it seems, with the play calling. Now, my sons go to Florida. My older son, Kaiser, tells me they've got, and I know this from my own research, but they've got actual sprinters at the wide receiver position. I don't know why they're afraid to let them actually sprint down the field and let DJ throw the deep ball, which he is very capable of doing. At least he showed us a great skill in that last year in throwing the deep ball. They haven't even really tried to unleash it this year. They do throw an awful lot of bubble screens, wide receiver screens, a lot of underneath stuff. Maybe LSU's defense had something to do with that. They were very, very good on Saturday, and no one would have believed that 3 games into the season that the LSU defense would be this far ahead of the LSU offense. Brian Kelly must not have believed it because he got really snippy after the game when the first question he was asked in the post-game press conference was about his offense's struggles. It didn't start with Florida. They struggled on offense against Clemson, struggled against Louisiana Tech, and struggled mightily against Florida, but Florida struggled worse. And so it was a 20-10 final. So those 3 quarterbacks have not lived up to their billing for various reasons, okay? But that's not where the bad news stops for Arch Manning, Garrett Nussmeier, DJ Lagway, Texas, LSU, and Florida. No. The upside down continues. Let's look at another. This is a stat that blows my mind. Now, we're going to have to blow this up full screen, Brenden, obviously. This is, again, from collegefootballstats.com. The bottom 3 names, this is quarterback rating. The bottom 3 names on this list, and that's all the quarterbacks listed, all of the SEC quarterbacks that have thrown enough, played enough to qualify for this category. At number 13, you see Arch Manning. At number 14, you see DJ Lagway. At 15th and last, you see Garrett Nussmeier in quarterback rating. Again, not something we saw coming. We know all of those guys have talent. We expect they will get better at some point, or at least their fan bases hope they will. And they're going to play much tougher competition going forward. Although I will say this for DJ Lagway, I'm not sure Florida will play a better defense than they saw Saturday night in Death Valley against LSU. I am so impressed with what the LSU defense is doing right now. Harold Perkins looks like the old Harold Perkins, coming from all different directions to harass the quarterback, to chase down ball carriers, to just be a disruptive force. That LSU team looks really, really dangerous on that side of the ball. But Garrett Nussmeier is going to have to play better if LSU is going to get to the SEC championship game, get to the college football playoff, and be the team that so many AP pollsters think they are. I think they're overrated. I think they're too high based on the eye test so far. So who is, if it's not to this point, if the best quarterback in the SEC is clearly not DJ Lagway, it's clearly not Arch Manning, it's clearly not Garrett Nussmeier. So who is? Let's look at some candidates. Maybe some of these folks will surprise you, at guys who have been really, really good really early this season. Let's look at some of those folks. Brenden, if we can look at that next graphic. 3 guys that have stood out, and there's more than this. I left Marcel Reed out from Texas A&M. He had a monster game at Notre Dame Saturday night, winning in the face of touchdown Jesus with a late touchdown pass, a late touchdown drive. We'll talk a little bit more about that game and one particular aspect of that game in a moment. But he's been really good. Okay? That's the one that really stands out. But these 3 guys in particular have, I think, opened some eyes. Now, look, we all knew who Diego Pavia was. And if you live in the state of Alabama, you've known for several years who Diego Pavia is and what he's all about, and the swagger that he brings to a football team, a football game, a football stadium. He probably could be elected. Well, no, he wouldn't be elected governor here because he has taken down Auburn twice, once with New Mexico State, once with Vanderbilt, and last year he took down Alabama. So he wouldn't be real popular in this state. And he gets a crack at Auburn and Alabama again this year. But what he's done at Virginia Tech, we're not going to give him credit for getting Brent Pry fired this early in the season, but he certainly contributed to it as Vanderbilt absolutely smoked Virginia Tech in the second half a couple of weeks ago. And then Pry was fired yesterday after another embarrassing performance by the Hokies. Exit Sandman, as Vanderbilt's snarky social media post exclaimed after Vanderbilt took Virginia Tech to the woodshed. So Diego's been Diego, which is really, really good. And he gets a couple of weeks off, I say that, against lesser competition to get ready for that return game against Alabama. And Joey Aguilar, I know Tennessee didn't win the game. Tennessee should have won the game. Kirby Smart said that. Joey Aguilar came out aflame in the first half and just reminded people of the most lopsided trade in college football history. Nico Iamaleava going to UCLA, Joey Aguilar going to Tennessee and lighting it up for Josh Heupel's offense. And that first half against Georgia, he had the Vols up 21-7. He looked like an All-American. Now, he cooled off. Georgia adjusted somewhat. But still, at the end of the day, Joey Aguilar had Tennessee in position to kick a field goal, a very makeable field goal to win the game. They missed it, and you knew at that moment that Georgia was going to win in overtime, which they did. And one of the reasons that they won in overtime, one of the reasons they won the game, and I left him off this list, and all apologies, I should have included him, Gunnar Stockton. How good was Gunnar Stockton in that game? And the single most impressive pass of this young season was that touchdown pass that Gunnar Stockton threw on 4th down, late in the 4th quarter, trailing by a touchdown in Neyland Stadium. The place going absolutely bonkers. A play you have to make or you lose the game. And he threw a corner route over the shoulder where only his receiver could catch it in a play reminiscent of Danny Werfel and Steve Spurrier and the Fun and Gun at Florida. You cannot throw the ball any better under more pressure in a more difficult moment than Gunnar Stockton did right there. That was beyond clutch. Blind squirrel. That was clutch grande. That was as clutch as it gets. So Gunnar Stockton, I think, has opened some eyes early. And then, of course, John Mateer, not really a surprise at Oklahoma. Everyone expected him to make plays, especially the smartest thing that Brent Venables ever did was bringing in John Mateer and bringing his offensive coordinator with him as well. The disconnect you see at Florida, many times it feels like Billy Napier and DJ Lagway aren't on the same page this year. Well, John Mateer and his offensive coordinator certainly are. And we're going to see a big-time matchup this Saturday. We're going to talk more about this later in the week. Auburn at Oklahoma. Jackson Arnold, the quarterback that Oklahoma didn't want, despite what Brent Venables said. I know he said the right thing. I know he said the nice thing at SEC Media Days. He was very complimentary of Jackson Arnold. He said he wanted him to stay. But when you bring in John Mateer, you're sending a flashing neon message to Jackson Arnold that you are not our guy. They sent Jackson Arnold that message last year during the season when they benched him in favor of a true freshman before they played Auburn, and Oklahoma went on to win that game in Jordan-Hare Stadium. We're going to find out how good Oklahoma really is. They've already given us a good indication with what they did to Michigan, and we're really going to find out about Auburn going to Oklahoma. That 2:30 Central Time kickoff on ABC. Can't wait for that one. We'll break that down in a little more detail later in the week. So John Mateer's been more about what you would have expected him to be, and he's made a splash in his first year in the SEC. So if those guys, and it could be John Mateer, it could be Gunnar Stockton, it could be Joey Aguilar, it could be Diego Pavia. We need more receipts. We need to see these guys against better competition more frequently, which is going to happen now that we're going full bore into SEC play. So, if the best quarterback in the SEC is not, at this point, based on results on the field in 2025, which is how we should look at this, somehow poll voters lose sight of this. We're talking about this season. We're talking about that quarterback or that wide receiver. And how good are A&M's wide receivers, by the way? They lit up Notre Dame on Saturday. But we're talking about this year. We're not talking about brand. We're not talking about reputation, or we shouldn't be. We should be talking about performance this year. And based on that, DJ Lagway, Arch Manning, Garrett Nussmeier aren't even close to being the best quarterback in the SEC. Maybe they will live up to their hype as the season goes on. So we've got a tangle at the top, if you will. We've got a real competition for who's going to be the best quarterback in the SEC. And there's one guy that I don't think a single person, maybe some of the more zealous folks in his fan base believed, but no one outside of his fan base certainly was talking about the new starting quarterback at the University of Alabama as maybe, possibly, could be the best quarterback in the SEC. Let's look at what Ty Simpson has done so far through 3 games. At this moment, he is the only quarterback in the top 5 in the SEC in quarterback rating, where he's number 1. He's number 8 nationally in that category, by the way. He has yet to throw an interception. Several guys are in that category, including Jackson Arnold. So obviously he's atop the league in that. He's thrown 9 touchdown passes, only Talon Green from Arkansas. I left him out. He's been really good. He had the Hogs driving late before an unfortunate fumble at Ole Miss. His touchdown to interception ratio doesn't get better than 9-0. Talon Green's 11-2, so he's +9 as well. Ty Simpson is number 3 in the league in completion percentage. And in the last 2 games, he wasn't great against Florida State. Acknowledged. We stipulate. However, you want to get better as the season goes along. You want to improve and learn from your mistakes. And no one has done that better on any football team in America from their first game through the next 2 games than Ty Simpson. Against Louisiana Monroe, 17 for 17. 226 yards, 3 touchdowns. Doesn't get much better than that. And then against Wisconsin, he continued that. At halftime of the Wisconsin game, if you include his ULM performance in the first 2 quarters against the Badgers, he was 30 for 31. That's hard to do in a scrimmage in August or a spring game in April. let alone against real live competition, as weak as that competition may be when we're talking about ULM. But Wisconsin is in the Big Ten. It's coached by a guy who knows a thing or two about defense in Luke Fickell. He may not have the personnel, and they were playing with a backup quarterback. However, Ty Simpson, it's hard to be sharper and more precise and more confident in your reads and your decision-making, and then more effective in delivering strikes into tight windows. Go back and look at the highlight of the throw he made to Kevin Riley, the running back, who's been a revelation himself, the redshirt freshman from the Tuscaloosa area. He has become running back one with Jam Miller out. Jam Miller's expected back for Alabama's big game in 2 weeks at Georgia. And then Ty Simpson is 5th in the league in yards per game, passing 287.3. So in the last 2 weeks, Ty Simpson is 41 for 46, 608 yards, 7 touchdowns, no interceptions. And the quarterback who looked so uncertain in the opener against Florida State has grown exponentially since then. And what really stood out on Saturday, and it's amazing how these stories tend to come full circle. Ty Simpson has been passed over multiple times to be the Alabama starting quarterback. And if you want to paint a picture and set an example for patience and perseverance and not giving up and believing in yourself when others don't, when others in position of authority over you, like your head coaches and your offensive coordinators, don't believe in you. Nick Saban he believed in Ty Simpson enough to sign him. He did not believe in Ty Simpson enough to start him ahead of Jalen Milroe. In 2023, Milroe's first year as a starter after Bryce Young became the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. The 4th of 5 straight Alabama quarterbacks. Think about this. Think about the pressure of playing that position at Alabama. The last 5 Alabama quarterbacks, and it'd be interesting, I haven't done the math, to compare this to other programs. 5 straight quarterbacks, full-time starting quarterbacks drafted in the NFL. 3 of them in the first round. Bryce Young, the number 1 overall pick. Tua Tagovailoa was a first-round pick. Mac Jones was a first-round pick. Jalen Hurts went in the second round, and he's already won a Super Bowl. And Jalen Milroe went in the third round. 5 straight starters, NFL draft picks. And not Mr. Irrelevant type draft picks either. So there's a lot of pressure on that position at Alabama. Not to mention all-time greats, legends, icons like Joe Namath and Ken Stabler have played that position in Tuscaloosa. So Nick Saban didn't believe in Ty Simpson enough. He chose Jalen Milroe as a starter at the beginning of the 2023 season. And then Alabama loses to Texas in Tuscaloosa. And Jalen Milroe made he made big plays. And this was Jalen's MO. He would make some head-turning, big-time plays and then some jaw-dropping, big-time mistakes in the same game. The lack of consistency is the thing that drove so many Alabama fans crazy watching him. They knew what he was capable of, and he was when he was good, he was really good. When he was not good, he was really not good. But Jalen Milroe beat out Ty Simpson. And then when Jalen Milroe struggled against Texas and Nick Saban decided to send a message to everyone, to his team, to his quarterbacks, to his fan base, to the media, and the very next week, Alabama went to South Florida. He could have started Ty Simpson. He did not. Who did he start? A guy named Tyler Buckner. Now, Tyler Buckner made news on Saturday night in the worst kind of way, and you have to feel for him. He was at Alabama for basically 1 semester. He was the backup quarterback. He got that start at South Florida in 2023 and played so poorly. Ty Simpson had to come off the bench and rescue him and save the game. save the day, keep Alabama in the playoff hunt after they'd already lost the week before to Texas. And Ty Simpson did that. The very next week, Nick Saban went back to Jalen Milroe, and it looked like the right decision. They went on, and they did make the playoff, although they lost to Michigan in the semifinals. And before you knew it, Nick Saban was announcing his retirement. So here comes Kalen DeBoer. And he's got a chance to pick Ty Simpson as his starter or stick with Jalen Milroe last year. And what did Kalen DeBoer do? He stuck with Jalen Milroe. He passed over Ty Simpson a year ago. And no matter how many games Jalen Milroe struggled, he stayed with him. DeBoer was loyal to Jalen Milroe in large part because Jalen Milroe was loyal to Kalen DeBoer when he got the job in Tuscaloosa. He kept the ship afloat as much as he could, trying to reduce the roster outflow. So many guys did leave, led by the likes of Caleb Downs and Isaiah Bond. Worked out great for Caleb at Ohio State, not so much for Isaiah at Texas. So it was understandable why Kalen DeBoer would stick with Jalen Milroe. But Ty Simpson was passed over again. And so Saturday night, after Ty Simpson had sliced and diced the Wisconsin secondary and looked like one of the better quarterbacks in the country, not just the SEC, for the second straight game, Texas A&M is playing Notre Dame, and it is an unbelievable game. Big plays back and forth. Marcel Reed, Mario Craver, Casey Concepcion. Like I said, those Texas A&M receivers are going to be a problem for everyone going forward. And Notre Dame takes the lead with a late touchdown. They line up for the extra point. And guess who's the holder for Notre Dame now? It's Tyler Buchner. And Tyler Buchner won a national championship for Notre Dame last year in lacrosse. Last season, he was on their lacrosse team. They won the men's national championship. So now he's the holder for the Fighting Irish. He gets a perfect snap, and he bobbles it. And he tries to recover. He tries to throw into the end zone. It falls incomplete. So now instead of leading by 7, Notre Dame's leading by 6. What does Texas A&M do? They run the kickoff back. Gets called back. That doesn't bother Marcel Reed. He drives the Aggies down the field. And on 4th down, he throws the game-winning touchdown pass. And then A&M converts its extra point, and they win by a point, 41-40. Now, I know human drama is part of why we love sports. I know it's part of why we love college football. I know these guys are not kids anymore. Many of them, most of them are getting paid. But it still is hard for me to watch. Maybe it's being a father of 2 college-age students. To watch how NBC focused on Tyler Buchner, on him on the sideline, on his anguish as Texas A&M was driving, as they scored the tying touchdown, as they kicked the go-ahead winning extra point. They kept focusing on Tyler Buchner on the sideline. Overkill. Come on, guys. Be a little human. Couldn't we all stand to be a little more human at times? We all love to jump on people and criticize people and pick people apart. And yes, in many cases, it's warranted. But there is a dividing line where you've gone too far. NBC, you went too far in that case. So Tyler Buchner, another guy that was chosen over Ty Simpson at one point at Alabama, now he's going to live in infamy, unfortunately, for with Notre Dame fans, or many Notre Dame fans, when they really ought to be pointing a finger at Marcus Freeman and Chris Ash and that Notre Dame defense, giving up 41 points on their home field. So Ty Simpson right now is starting to look like Mac Jones 2.0. Not the Mac Jones who struggled as a first-round draft pick in the NFL, although he had a great game for the San Francisco 49ers yesterday. Mac Jones is another example of patience and perseverance. But Mac Jones waited behind Jalen Hurts. He waited behind Tua in Tuscaloosa. And when he got his shot, didn't make the most of it at first in 2019 after Tua got hurt. But when Mac was the guy in 2020, go back and look at his numbers. He set the SEC record for completion percentage for a season, 77.4, somewhere in that range. Ty Simpson is heading in that direction. And Ty Simpson is starting to look like the guy that Nick Saban recruited and signed. He's starting to look like the guy that won the job this year, that Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb, the new offensive coordinator in Tuscaloosa, believed in. One interesting note about Ty Simpson after the game on Saturday, I don't know how many people caught it, but in his post-game interview, he brought in a stat sheet. I don't know that I've been in a lot of, I wasn't there, but I've been in a lot of post-game interview rooms in my career. I don't know that I've ever seen a player bring a stat sheet into the post-game interview room. And he didn't talk about the fact that he was 24 for 29 for 382 yards, and he threw 4 touchdown passes, that he threw an absolute dart to Kevin Riley where Kevin Riley was going to get hit, but he put it in the perfect place. He didn't talk about the dart that he threw to Isaiah Horton for a touchdown, or the dart he threw to Ryan Williams that would have been Ty Simpson's 5th touchdown pass of the day in the second half, and Ryan Williams dropped it. Ryan Williams had a great game. He did return to form. He did one of those Top Gun Maverick moves. I'm going to hit the brakes. They'll fly right by. He did that to Wisconsin the way he did Georgia a year ago. So if you think for a second that Alabama might be better off without Ryan Williams, you need to get your head examined. Ryan Williams is a problem. And you combine him with Jeremy Bernard, who's been Alabama's best wide receiver, maybe best player through 3 games, and Isaiah Horton and all the other weapons they have on offense. And then you bring Jam Miller back into the mix. And I can't wait to see Alabama at Georgia in 2 weeks. Both of those teams will be off this week. They have extra time to prepare for each other. It was a classic last year in Tuscaloosa. Alabama jumped out to the big lead. Georgia stormed back, took the lead, and Jalen Milroe threw a touchdown pass to Ryan Williams, and Ryan Williams did magical things. The discipline, now you see him, now you don't moves that are so unique to him to win the game. So the way Ty Simpson has been playing, the way he's improved from week 1, the way Gunnar Stockton's been playing for Georgia, we may be headed the way that Tennessee-Georgia game turned into a shootout. Forget Alabama's old reputation as a defensive monster. Forget Kirby Smart and Georgia's reputation as the immovable object. This is looking like they will be lighting up the scoreboard in Sanford Stadium between the hedges, and I can't wait. We've got a lot more great games coming this weekend. Like I said, circle Auburn at Oklahoma. We will find out if either of those teams is for real, especially Auburn. Auburn's got a lot to prove. They have not beaten a team ranked as high as number 11, which is where Oklahoma is right now in the AP poll, for whatever that's worth. Auburn hasn't beaten a team ranked that high away from home. Key phrase, away from home, since they opened the 2019 season with a win over number 11 Oregon in Jerry World in Arlington, Texas. So we are well into it now, folks. Some things we thought we knew, we were totally wrong. Sorry for my belief in Clemson. I'll always believe in Dabo, but Dabo's got to change some things if he wants Clemson to be a national contender. That's all I'm going to say about that for today. That's all I'm going to say about anything for today, except to direct you to check out our friends at Money Management Services right here in Birmingham, Alabama. Your family-owned, fee-only financial services company. They will take great care of you. Thank you to them for sponsoring. Thank you to Brenden Martin, our executive producer on the Sidelines.Live network. And thank you for watching and for listening. Have a great day, everyone. See you.
Since 1992, Money Management Services in Birmingham has provided individuals and business owners with trusted, fee-only financial advice. We're more than advisors, we're your financial family. From retirement planning to tax strategies and estate planning, our team builds personalized wealth management plans tailored to your life. At Money Management Services, we treat you like family, because when you walk through our doors, you become part of ours.